Testing, testing, testing. Just making sure we're all good. Yeah, I'm up. Hang on. We'll just make sure all the audio is working, and then we will get the show started. Yeah, that's on. That's on. Okay. Should be all good here in just a second. Yeah, all good. Okay, I guess we'll. Yeah. Okay. Okay. There we go. Sweet. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Tales from a Wanderer. My name, as always, is Oliver Sanchez, professional wilderness guide and general outdoorsman. Today, we take both of our stories, or possibly three, if we have time, of course. We take both of our stories and possibly three to right close to home, actually, up by where I live, which is kind of upstate New York-ish, about an hour and a half from college here. And we're going to be talking about a couple hikes. So moving away from the heat of Panama and up to the heat of here, two very different things, of course. And so the first story actually happened on the Appalachian Trail. So the Appalachian Trail, of course, runs straight through New England, basically. So it goes through a 50-mile stretch in Connecticut, which is kind of like my closest stretch that I can get to, and then it kind of weaves its way up into Vermont. So me and my friend, probably before COVID, I know it feels like forever ago, decided to do just a small section. It was probably 20 miles of it. And we planned this kind of like three-day trip, kind of in the middle of summer, just around June. Both of us were pretty excited. Like both of us gotten off school. We were both pretty experienced hikers. We had kind of we had become friends in middle school and like done all the fun activities outside through that. And so we were both like, oh, this is gonna be a sweet trip. This is kind of our first trip really by ourselves, truly without a chaperone. And so we were both like, ah, this is gonna be a great trip. So start off the day by climbing a mountain called Bear Mountain. And so we kind of, well, taking it back actually, we parked cars. This is gonna be important. We parked each other's cars basically at one end of the trail and then at the very other. So we would drive back and forth to them basically. And then we could do like just a straight shot without having to do a loop of the trail basically. And so, we started off the day kind of late, like it was probably like 9 o'clock. So sun wasn't really beating down on us yet, and we had some overcast skies. So we started hiking, and Bear Mountain, not the one that's close to campus, if any of you know that, but the one more up in Connecticut is actually very steep. It's probably the biggest mountain kind of around in that region. So it means that you're climbing up basically a very, very steep cliff face of switchbacks. And then we're climbing up these switchbacks, and I was like, oh, this is easy. Like the section by my house is nothing. Like this is nothing compared to that section. And we're still climbing and climbing and climbing, and then the switchbacks kind of just like end. Like there's no more. Like, oh, where's the trail go? All right, we're like looking around, and then we look down, and like these trail runners are just like running up the mountain basically. So they come speeding by us and just run right up this cliff, and we're like, what? That's where we have to go? We have to go up that? So of course, when you're doing a hike like this, right, you're carrying all your gear, all your food, all your supplies for these couple of days, pretty much. And so that basically means that you it's quite a heavy pack. I think my pack was around, I want to say 20-25 pounds, just about, because it was only 2 days and we were only carrying so much, and so it's probably 25 to 30 pounds. And so my friends was, around the same, and so by this point, you're sweating a little bit, you're working up a sweat, and the adrenaline's also going, right. So we're climbing this cliff, and it's really one of those, like, you know, almost out of a movie scenes, I'd kind of say. Almost out of a movie scene where you're kind of placing one hand, okay, careful, okay, place the other one, and you're still climbing. And I have photos of like looking down, basically, and it's just like a sheer drop on either side of this trail. So you keep climbing up this like vertical face. It's probably only 100 meters, maybe 150 meters all the way up it, but all the entire time with this heavy bag, and you're kind of off balance, and you're like, oh, okay, this is not what I want to be doing anymore. This is really steep. And so we kind of make it to the top of this little cliff area. And so we're kind of at the top of that, and the trail turns back into, a true hiking trail, basically, with dirt and some leaves covering it. And the hike turned actually incredibly beautiful after that. The sun was kind of coming through the trees, and it was all dappled lighting, and it looks really nice, and it was very pretty. And we're still hiking, and as I'm hiking, I'm drinking some water because it's starting to get hot. Right, it's starting to get really, really hot. And so we're walking, and we come out kind of onto the overlook part of Bear Mountain, and you can see, all the way down this huge valley. And me and my friend, we're like, oh, you know what? It's around 11. By this point, it was probably 11ish. Took us a while to get up there, and we'd already hiked for maybe 4 or 5 miles at this point. And so we were like, okay, we're just gonna take a break here. We're gonna eat some snacks and like chill out for a second. And the wind was like kind of a cool breeze was going up there, and so both of us felt great. I mean, both of us were like, oh, sweet, no problem, easy. And so go through that, basically. Take that break. Very nice. Then started hiking down the backside, and so the trail kind of dropped off onto this really cool ridge traverse. You can see left and right, and see all the way down that valley, and see down that valley. And so we're taking our time now. We were really in no rush. We had maybe 4 or 5 miles to go at that point. So we're continuing on, and we're passing people coming the other way, basically. But by that point, it wasn't too hot out. So we were kind of like, oh, hello, how are you doing? Like, people are like, oh, is it bad? And you're exchanging information with your the people on the trail. And so we continue, and we kind of get off the ridge traverse, and we're going back up the other side of this mountain. And now it's like 1:30 probably, and hot now, like dripping, just sweat, basically. It's really, really hot out, very humid, and all the clouds had just like disappeared in like a half hour, basically. We're like, oh man, like, come on, like, why did they really have to just like? I mean, everything had disappeared, and the shade had basically gone because your sun's right overhead. And so, you try and basically stay cool as best you can. So drinking a ton of water, going through our water like there was no tomorrow, basically. Drinking a lot of water, and basically we were just like, okay, continue on. Campsite's 3 miles, maybe, and we'll be there. Hiking up the other side of this mountain was nuts. I mean, we both of us were exhausted by the time we got all the way up to it. And we're like, oh, okay, take a breather. Okay, it's all good. Like, well, we can make this do, right? And by this point, more people are passing us, and we're kind of getting reports now of like there's no water, right? So we're running through water, right? You're drinking maybe you want to really be drinking 4 to 5 liters a day when you're out there. So you're maybe doing a half liter every half an hour, maybe, or every 45 minutes, pretty much. And so running through water, And so you're always looking for a place to basically filter more water. So that might be a stream or, a well or something like that. People are like, there's no water up there. So we're like, oh, okay. It's hot. We've got minimal water left. We'll have to make it to camp. Hope water's there. So the last kind of 45 minutes of us walking into camp, we had we didn't see another person. We didn't see another person at all that last 45 minutes. So as we're walking into this camp, both me and my friend are kind of thinking, okay, what if there's no water here? This camp is like 8 miles away where we could possibly get water. Like, what if there's no water here? So we come into this camp and there's already two tents set up. They're on these little raised platforms, and we're like, okay, that's fine. We're gonna go camp in the lean-to. So that was one of the reasons that our packs were so light, was because we had pretty much no tent with us. I mean, we had this rain fly pretty much, and that was it, because we weren't expecting rain, and so a tent's heavy, and we decided, okay, just gonna leave it. We'll sleep in the lean-to, which is on the Appalachian Trail. It's pretty much a kind of a wooden shelter with a slanted roof, and it protects you from the rain. And so we get there, hot, sticky. You're just like, I just want a nap at this point. I just want to lie down and do absolutely nothing now. But of course, can't do that. So behind the lean-to was supposedly the source of water. So we had kind of mapped out this route so that we were staying close to water, and water on the trail is very important. So we'd mapped the route to make sure that we knew every water supply, every place we could get water. And so we basically were like, okay, cross your fingers, because if this doesn't have water, we can't stay here. Basically, we've got to keep going. I mean, I have like a liter of water left now. Like, there's not enough to make dinner. There's not enough to make any of this. So we walk slowly. I mean, really slowly. I'm closing my eyes and crossing both fingers so slowly back away from the lean-to, and by some small miracle, this tiny kind of, like, if you turn the faucet on just a little bit and that little trickle of water comes out, that's how much water was coming out of the well. And so both of us like, oh yes, like, thank God, like, there's actually water here, like, hallelujah, basically. Uh, so both of us fill bottles, so it takes a while. So you're filtering, and I had a little squeeze filter, and my friend had a really nice filter where you just kind of pump it. So we're filtering water, and then we were like, okay, gonna make dinner. So dinner was easy, boil some water, rehydrated food, like super simple. I mean, really easy stuff that you can do in like 10 minutes max. Like, really nice lightweight food as well, which is something you're always concerned about when you're backpacking. So finally have dinner, and it's like 9:30. We're like, we're just gonna go to sleep. It's no big deal. We're just gonna go to sleep. So this lean-to had a tin roof. And before I went to sleep, I was like, man, like, if something hits that tin roof, like, it's gonna be really loud, like really, really loud. So all of a sudden, well, we go to sleep basically. And it must have been maybe 1 or 2 in the morning, and all of a sudden all you hear is wham! And like, it sounded like a body hit the tin roof. Both me and my friend instantly awake, right? Because I mean, how can you sleep through what is basically just a body dropping on the tin roof? And then it kind of like scurried away. But during your kind of sleepiness, like when you first get up, all you're thinking is, it's a monster, right? There's a monster outside. I'm about to be killed. It Of course, we never found out what it was, right? We never know what that mysterious sound was. I personally thought it was a squirrel. My friend thought it was a bird. There were conflicting stories. But it was very funny to kind of wake up in the middle of the night and just think, "Yep, that's it. I'm gone. Like, there's no way I'm getting out of this." Uh, so the next morning, of course, we're both like, "What was that? How'd that even happen?" And so we that kind of conversation still continued into as we packed up camp and as we kind of packed up everything. And um both of us had decided that instead of doing like a hot breakfast, like oatmeal or something, again, weight consideration, we would pretty much just have like a more of a dry breakfast. So that'd be a granola bar and just some water, pretty much, and then snack until about lunch, and then have a more substantial kind of meal. So we were both like, okay, we shall continue forward as one should. So get back on the trail. Once again, it's so hot. Like, even by 10, it sometimes by 10, especially more north, it's a little bit cooler. It's a little bit colder. No, 10 o'clock, hot, crazy hot, like 95 degrees hot. Still going, still walking. It'll be okay. So the route today pretty much called for us to walk straight through a town. So we were like, "Ah, we're gonna get some food as we go through this town." And that was probably oh, after that night of just like, squirrel on the roof, crazy hot, right? Like, after yesterday, both of us were kind of like, I kind of want some real food. And we were only out there for so many days, so we were like, yeah, 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 we can spend some money. And we stopped in this little tiny town, and clearly it was a hot spot for through hikers. So, we're having food, and we've got our bags next to us, and through hikers are coming in and out, and I just wanted to pick their brains so badly about what they were doing and what they were seeing. And so when we did finally get back on the road, there was kind of this like pull out parking area, and during all of this, I'm kind of thinking, okay, like, let's not talk to too many strange people. Like, it's just me and my friend. Like, kidnapping is an issue, of course. But these people were, they saw our packs and saw us walking, and they had this kind of car and then this cooler and three chairs set up, and they're like, "Oh, come over, come sit." And at first, I was like, "What are we doing? Let's not interact with the crazy people on the side of the road in 95-degree weather. Like, let's not do that." But they kind of they we we went over. We're curious. We were young, and we went over, and they're like, "Oh, are you guys through hiking? Are you going Sobo?" Is what it's called. So southbound instead of northbound. Usually you hike the Appalachian Trail from south to north, and we were going in the direction of north to south. So he said, "No, of course, we're out here for just kind of a weekend trip. Like, we're only out here for 3 days." And they're like, "Oh, that's so cool. Like, I wish I was you young people." And then we kind of realized that they were this kind of support for the through hikers. And I had never, like, I knew the outdoor community, and these kind of people did show up on the trail for the through hikers and for the people who were doing this, but I never knew that there were just random people out in the heat just being like, "Hey, you want a cold soda?" "Yeah, sure, why not?" And they were all connected. They told us all these stories, and "Oh, I had done 400 miles back in '03, and I'd done 600 back in '05." And I was like, "Whoa, what, really?" As a younger person, I was like, "Whoa, you're so cool." And all of their stories were very interesting. And when you get onto the trail, you always have like a trail name, so you don't actually use your real name when you're out there. So they every time they would say, "Oh, conditions," they'd always talk about, like, there was this one person called Snow Bunny. There's another person who was called like Stream, or basically all these outdoors names. I think there was one guy named like Hacksaw or something, right? Like, all these names, and you never used your own name, because when you're out there, you're kind of someone else, something else, I guess you'd say. Um, and that was just it was just kind of funny, as they're explaining this, and I'm thinking, who the hell is Snow Bunny? Oh, it's another hiker. And so talking with them, we kind of realized that there was no water for the next like 6 miles, pretty much. Okay, that's fine. Okay, all right, quick, redo the plan. Okay, we'll do. How about we do 9? Right, we'll do 9 and get to next camp, and hopefully there'll be water there. Head away from the people on the side of the trail, saying goodbye, exchanging contacts. Hey, if you ever want to hike the trail, like call me up. I've got the information. Sweet, awesome. Thank you so much. Continued on pretty much. And then we got into some really like technical, hard stuff. A lot of like rock hopping, boulder fields, straight up, straight down, straight up, kind of that kind of crazy stuff. And by like, I don't know, probably 2, we'd only done 4 miles maybe. So, or it might have been 5, but it was so hot. Like it had gotten even hotter, basically. It was probably pushing 100 degrees at this point. And both of us were very, very low on water. And so we came through this first campsite, which we had been planning to stay at. And both me and my friend were like, okay, we're going to stop here and we're going to see if they have water. They did not. The whole stream, probably 6 foot, 7 foot wide stream, was dry, completely dry, pretty much. So both of us were like, okay, there's no water here. So we talked to some of the other people, and they're like, yeah, I didn't find water that direction for like another 3 miles. So we were like, okay, we're getting, and by this point, we're pretty close to the cars. We were probably 5 miles from the car. Continue on, and I'm climbing this kind of last hill, like his last big obstacle in the day, or at least that's what we thought. Kind of the last big obstacle in the day, and I take one more sip of water, and I'm out. Right. And so I turn around, and I was carrying my bottle on me, and I shook it, no water. Right. And I turn around to my friend, and he was like, yeah, I ran out like 15 minutes ago. So, oh, great. No water. 3:00, 3:30 ish now. No water. Absolutely none. So like, okay, we have to get out of here. Like there's no way there's going to be water up there. Like everything is dry. Every stream bed that we thought we could get water from, dry. Every river is too hard to get to. So like we have to get out of here. Okay, it's 5 miles to the car. Okay, we're going to be there late. Okay, whatever. We'll just push for it. It was maybe 2-3 hours went by. It was probably 6 at this point. Gone completely dark. I'm navigating by only the light of my flashlight at this point. There's nothing else around. No moon, nothing. And we're walking down this gravel road, hoping to get out of the trail. Still no water. Still haven't found anything. Hoping to get out of the trail. Uh, both of us are exhausted, hot. I've got mosquito bites everywhere at this point. There's nothing more that could be thrown our way, pretty much. And by this point, I mean we're just so tired that we were like, okay, we gotta just get off. We finally make it back to the like kind of paved road. Still walking with just our headlamps, and when you're just walking like just with your headlamps, if anyone has ever done that, you kind of get like sucked into it. You get tunnel vision. So all you can see is just the concrete or the trail in front of you, and then nothing else around you. So it's a very eerie moment. And both me and him were walking like without saying a word, and very, very eerie, very, very strange. Make it back to the car, and both of us are just like, I'm gonna go home. Like my house is only like 20 minutes away. I'm just gonna go home. Like this is crazy. Like I need water. That was that was both. I think that was both of ours. Kind of reality check. Like, oh, hiking is pretty hard. Why, yes, trying to Trying to do a 3-day trip in the 3 days, the hottest days of the year, yes, that was pretty hard. And so it was kind of it was a fun reality check. We laughed about it afterwards. In the moment, we were pretty like, "Why the hell had we done this at this day? Why are we doing this?" And so it was very kind of fun story to tell afterwards. Uh, so that ends my time hiking on the AT, but, there are a ton of other hiking trails really close to my house, and there's a small town kinda close to my house that has, a whole network of trails. So it's sweet, it has this really nice loop kind of trail. And so, kinda later in the summer, kinda COVID, probably into COVID era, and, all you wanna do during quarantine is get out. So, of course, me being more of an outdoorsman, I was like, "I'm gonna go take a walk. I'm gonna go take a hike." And so, whenever you're solo hiking, of course, you've gotta tell someone where you're going. So I kinda say, "Oh, mom, like, I'm going on a hike. Like, I'll be back in, like, 3 hours." She's like, "Oh, okay, no problem." And, the trail that I picked is kind of a more technical one. It's quite steep at the beginning and then quite steep coming down, and then it goes steep again. It's a nice ridge traverse and then back down again. And I was planning to do, just about like an 8-mile loop. So it was a pretty substantial one. So I probably parked at the trailhead at 12, and, I mean, it was a nice, cool kind of summer day. Like, I was wearing a long sleeve and long pants, and I was like, "Oh, this is beautiful out. Why aren't there more people out?" Me being an idiot, hadn't checked the weather forecast. But I was like, "Why isn't there more people out? There's no one here. Usually this is busy." And so started off the hike, and it was really nice. I was started going up the first kind of steep incline and really felt it. And I was like, "Man, this is hard." And then made it to the crest, short break, some water, back down again. Started walking back down, and the sun kind of like was starting to go in and out, when clouds are moving across it. And so I was like, "What is happening?" And so this kind of cloud layer came over, and I was like, "Oh, no problem. No big deal. It's all good. Clouds are nothing." Uh, so kept walking, and I came to kind of like the most technical kind of part of the trail. So it had been cut. So the rock itself had been cut, and then it was this huge boulder, and then it came up again. So it's kind of like these steps in the rock. Beautiful trail. Highly recommend. But going kind of started going up there, and clouds got darker. So I was like, "Oh man, like I really don't want it to rain. Like it better not rain on me." Clouds started to get darker and darker, and the wind started kind of swirling, like whipping, and so the leaves are all blowing everywhere, and all I'm thinking is, "Great." And so the hike, this one I'd done, I don't know, a handful of times probably, and every single time it had been slightly, sketchy, I guess you call it. It had rained on me quite a lot, or I had gotten, like, basically a cold front that came in, rolled right onto me out of nowhere. So this one again to me was like, I had gotten some sprinklings, and I had gotten some, n just, like, simple rain, like, stuff I could deal with out there. And so when these dark clouds started coming and, the wind started going, I was like, "Oh, no problem. Like, this trail is just cursed," basically. Like, that's what I'm thinking at this point. So continue on. Like, no big deal. Made it onto the ridge and then started the ridge traverse. So it's about 2 miles down the ridge, and then you drop off again, pretty much. Started on that, and I look kind of across the horizon, dark, dark clouds, like definitely rain, and you can smell it in the air, and you're like, "Ah, this is a big storm." Like, this is not a fun little sprinkle shower. No, no, this is a serious storm that's about to roll over here. So, it's coming in, and I was like, "Okay, well, I'm halfway from the car. I'm kinda halfway in the trail. I'm right in the middle. I'm just gonna keep going because it's just rain." did the ridge traverse pretty quickly, honestly, and began kind of dropping off the ridge finally. Started to go down, and then it kind of trail kind of goes down and then onto a gravel road, and you kind of finish out the last 3 miles on this gravel road, and you're back to the parking lot. Uh, I'm halfway down the trail out of the ridge traverse, and I pull out my rain jacket, and this was probably the smartest thing I had done all day. I pulled out my rain jacket and put it on because I was like, "Oh, it's starting to get cold out." Like, time to put on my rain jacket. And it kind of the wind stopped all of a sudden, and then rain. I mean, torrential rain. Like, it didn't even start off as like a pitter patter. It was just rain. And it's that kind of rain, that we get, uh, in New York and in New England that just pours on you, and then usually it stops, right? It's that quick downpour, and then it's over. This was not a quick downpour. The whole time I'm going down the trail, the wind kicks back up again, and, I've got my hood on, and it zipped all the way up, basically, and it started coming in through the side of the hood, the rain, basically. It's coming sideways at me, and in my mind, I'm like, "You idiot. Why are you doing this?" Like, I'm regretting every decision I just made to come up this trail. I knew it was cursed, because it must be, because every time, it's rained on me. So I'm still heading down, and I make it to the road, and that's when I don't have any more tree cover, because of course the road is cut, and then the trees, of course, aren't over it. So no more tree cover meant I was even wetter. So basically, it started coming in through my zippers. So I was wearing, like, a nice rain jacket, and so I haven't had any problems with it all the way from Canada to Panama with rain getting into it, and it start coming in through my zippers and, like, in the neck crease of my hood, and so it started dripping down, like, my back and down the sides, and my whole waist is soaked. Like, there's no helping my waist anymore, and the temperature, like, dropped a lot, like 10 degrees. So I'm shivering as I'm trying to make it back to the car, and it's still just pouring, like, torrential rain. Um, kind of rain that I would expect up in Canada, but would not expect here in New England, where I'm expected to, like, this downpour is gonna last 30 seconds, and it just kept going, and so, like, the whole road was just mud now. So, I'm sinking in with every step, and I'm trying to get to the car, and all the time, I'm like, "You should check the weather, huh? Should've checked the weather. You're not very bright, are you now?" So, I'm still kinda walking down this road, and still going, still going. Finally, I'm a mile from the car, and I can see the car, and, all I'm thinking to myself is, "Oh, finally," because by this point, all the water had come, like, only the top half of my chest was dry, because all the water had come in through the lower half and up the rain jacket pretty much and through the sides, and so I got to the car, and I was like, "Well, there's no point keeping this on anymore." Just took it off, and luckily, I had complete set of clothes, complete change. Kinda strip everything off of you, and then try and hurry into the car and bundle up warm, and I sat in the car there for, you know, a good couple minutes just being like, "Should've checked the weather, should've checked the weather," and on the weather radar, I looked it up on my phone, there's this huge storm that just rolled in. I was like, "Alright, sweet, great." So I when I made it back home, my mom jokingly said to me, "Oh, you look a little wet." And I was like, "Yeah, it's kinda pouring out." So it's kind of this very funny experience of being like, "This trail is cursed, but, I'm gonna hike it anyway because the trail's beautiful, and it's kind of a great workout as well." And in that time, it went from, "This trail's cursed," to, "I think this tra" it kind of my mindset went from, "I think this trail's cursed," to, "Yeah, yeah, this trail's cursed." And even to this day, I've never hiked that trail without either, it almost storming on me, so like rain was coming in, or it actually raining on me, or me falling at some point. I've fallen on that trail more times than I can count. So I don't know why I keep going back to it, but it seems to be one of those that just draws me right in and just makes me want to go back. So that while that does finish our second story, I actually have one more that was more recent, actually over winter break. That is equally as funny, which does not have to do with heat or the rain. I know, quite the twist. This was hiking actually back on the Appalachian Trail during winter break, and so there was kind of a light dusting of snow on the ground, which is important to know. Which is important to know for this story. There was a light dusting of snow on the ground. Um, and so start off the hike, and this one is a longer one as well. It's 4 or 5 miles, and so I was just thinking, oh, this is gonna be sweet. It's gonna take up all my afternoon. I'm not gonna have to sit at home and be bored the whole afternoon, basically. Uh, and so I'm walking along the trail, and by this, and I've got my poles, and I'm just looking up at the trees, and the birds are going. I'm thinking, oh, I should have brought my wildlife camera. I should have brought my nice camera. It would have been really nice to see the some pictures of the birds, right? Walking along, everything's fine, and I stopped for a second to take a photo of the view. And then I had my phone, so I'd taken it out of my bag and put it into my pocket because I was still, I was taking photos of the view and doing all that stuff. And I was still going along, and so still walking along, and I kind of go away from the cliff, and all of a sudden, one of the shadows moves, and so all the trees are dark against the white, and out of the corner of my eye, like one of the shadows move. So I'm like, what? So I stop, of course, like any normal human would. So I stop, of course, and the shadow kind of moves again. What is that? So I take another step around the tree, and it's a bear. It's like a full on bear, right? Like not like a little cub, or like a nice soft cuddly bear. No, like a 400-pound black bear. Just like you might be thinking, why aren't they in hibernation? So by this point, my heart's going 400 miles an hour, pretty much. Because all I'm thinking is, that's a that could kill me. That's that's not a fun thing to be dealing with. And every time I'd gone on one of these hikes, and it's a huge bear area, of course, Connecticut. Every time I'd gone on one of these hikes, I'd always thought, I'm gonna run into a bear. I'm gonna definitely run into a bear. I'm definitely gonna run into a bear. Never had. This was the one that I went out and I said, I'm not gonna see one. I'm actually not gonna see one. They're probably in hibernation. It's probably gonna be okay. And I just turned that corner, and bear. He walked right across the trail and stopped. And I'm maybe 150, 200 meters from him. He just stops there. And I mean, I'm looking him basically dead in the eyes. And so black bears are pretty skittish, that you can pretty much scare them away unless they're hungry, which this one clearly was. And of course, from spending time out there, and from, kind of being outdoors, I kind of did a 360, because at that point I thought, okay, this is a rather large bear, but the mother could be around. And so if it was a cub, that could have been even made the whole situation much worse. Did the 360, no mother. I have a bear in front of me. So I pulled out my phone, and I thought I sent this great video back to my girlfriend, and I was like, "Oh man, look at this bear, and look how cool this is." And so, in fact, I had only sent a very shaky, unsteady camera angle back to her, which was it was very funny, because all I was thinking was, "Oh, look how cool this is," and all she was thinking was, "Get out of there, you idiot." So, the phone video, I mean, is literally like me just like, "Oh, look at the bear," and so kind of sent it to her and some of my teammates, and they're like, "Oh, cool, like, Oliver saw a bear. What else is new? So it was very funny as I'm so excited, and they were like, "Oh, that's kind of dangerous." And so that was what that's what I was kind of thinking in the moment was quick, get a picture of it. Uh, but of course, me being an idiot, hadn't remembered his wildlife camera, of course. So all I had was this shaky bear footage to send off to people. But I was over the moon because I'd heard bears, heard them in the bushes close to the trail, seen them in captivity, but never seen one that kind of close and that in nature, let's say. Because I'd heard them in the bushes, of course, and you kind of go, "Hey, bear," and you know they kind of scatter off, or you kind of yell something at them, and they kind of go. But this one was there to stay. Like he was just hanging out. He was just looking at me, and he was like, "I could kill you if I really wanted to." And I was like, "That's fair. That is fair. You could." Uh, so I kind of slowly backed out of there, and I was only like a mile and a half in. So I was kind of thinking, well, you had just interrupted my whole hike. My whole plan for the day had just been ruined because of the bear, even though I had gotten all these cool photos from it. Um, of course, through my shaky hands in the camera. So that kind of that story was very funny to me just because I kind of ran across this bear, and then, you know, I always say, "Oh yes, I'm an outdoorsman, and yes, I know what I would do." But instead, I just sent off the shakiest video in the world, and it looked like I was actually just capturing like Bigfoot or something. Uh, yeah. So that was kind of the end of our show for today. Those three stories. The first one about, of course, being the heat, and then the rain, and then the bear, which are three stories from up here close to home. Tune in next time when we head up to Canada again, when we tackle a rapid filled with three people in the boat, and we understand tides while canoeing in the Arctic Circle. Once again, my name's Oliver Sanchez, here with Tales from a Wanderer.